My narcissistic mom cut me off from her life but now is trying to come back hours later. Gonna try and make it relatively short. Spoiler, it's not short, but for context, I 26 female to male have been my mom's 54 female emotional regulation for my whole life. I know she has her own perspective on what's been going on, but for extra perspectives from people close to the family, including people close to her, some people mentioned to me and my siblings a few years ago that the way she treats us and our father is not normal. My closest friends who I confide in about the things she has said to me have suggested that I should go no contact or end my relationship with her. Another friend has suggested that she is emotionally abusive. My therapist thinks she has narcissistic traits. My sister has said I should cut her off and that she might do the same. My brother's ex, who planned to marry him and have children together, explicitly said that our mom would not ever be allowed near her children. I have spent the last year and a half trying to work with my mom to improve our dynamic and explain to her how and why I am hurt by the way she treats me. I never had the intention of ending the relationship and have been trying really hard to get us into family therapy or to have a mediator or other unbiased third party to help us work through this. She has refused because she doesn't trust therapists. We've been texting on and off about our issues and have talked in person once. It hasn't been going well. Since we're not having any outside help, I've been trying to understand her perspective better to see how we might move through this. Some of what I've learned about her: she believes that intention is way more important than impact. In practice, this means she does not apologize for hurting someone's feelings unless she meant to hurt them and feels bad about it. When someone tells her they've been hurt by something she says, she just explains that she didn't mean to and expects things to be fine again. She believes that all she can do if she has unintentionally hurt someone's feelings is explain herself. Apologizing is not on the table. Trying to understand why it was hurtful is not on the table. Committing to not do it again is not on the table. She genuinely believes that a bad mental health day is more than enough excuse to treat people poorly and lash out. Our last conversation via text was in September. She had claimed that she still didn't know what she had done to hurt my feelings, so how could we possibly move towards repair if she didn't know what we were repairing? I sent her a bullet point list of only the things we had already talked about that had happened in the past year and a half, and her response was that this conversation was absurd and she was busy until November. This whole time, I had hoped we could work through this and understand each other. I thought we could beat the odds and actually have repair. Her track record of repair is not good, but I had hope. In past conflicts, she has ended her relationships with 1, my older brother; 2, her own brother; 3, her father; 4, her cousin; 5, her best friend and boss. So I was working against the odds, but surely we could talk like normal adults? I wanted her in my life, and I want my dad and siblings more present in my life too. I haven't been able to spend as much time with them during the past year and a half because of her. Apparently, anytime I am mentioned in her presence, she shuts down, gets angry, storms off, etc. I don't want to hurt their relationships with her, so I've been reaching out less often, particularly to my dad, who I miss a lot. Yesterday, she messages me out of the blue to say she doesn't see how we can work this out. I ask her what that means. She says the same thing. She doesn't see a way forward. She doesn't know how to fix this. I tell her it sounds like she's ending our relationship and ask her to clarify if that's what she was doing. She confirms and says she doesn't know what else to do, that she's been willing to apologize for one way she hurt me, has a bit of a pity party about me deserving better and having a life without being hurt constantly by my mom. I repeat what I've been saying this whole time, that I am just asking for an apology, an attempt to understand how she is hurting me, and a commitment to behave differently. I tell her that if she wanted to apologize, I've never stood in her way. If she wanted to understand, she could have listened any of the times I've explained it to her. I told her if she wanted to treat me differently, she could have started. Lastly, I tell her it's disappointing that she's made this decision, but I won't stand in her way. She replied with a single sentence apology for one of the hurtful things she has done. I can't help but read it with a sarcastic tone. Although I think she may have intended it as a half-butt olive branch, an attempt to keep talking and undo her decision minutes earlier to end our relationship. I haven't responded. I don't think I want to. I don't think she is actually willing to hear me out or change how she treats me. Is that a whole move, to accept her decision to end the relationship but reject her minuscule apology? Update. Over the last few weeks I was holding strong in my decision not to accept her takesies backsies. She messaged me several more times since then, each time with some unhinged prospect that made it harder to not respond. She had decided to speak to her lawyer and strategize without me at length about whether or not they could get me a restraining order against my childhood abuser. She said she wouldn't move forward until I okayed it, and followed up a week later. She added a big ol' spiel about how, if we were to keep trying to work things out, she thought I needed to consider that every event has 3 points of view: mine, hers, and what really happened, and that I needed to consider her point of view about the time she has hurt me. She also went on a bit of a rant about boundaries, saying that I can have personal boundaries that affect only me, but that it's not okay for me to have boundaries that she has to abide by in order to have a relationship with me. She seems to think that we need to mutually agree to my boundaries, and that if she doesn't agree, she doesn't have to respect them because it would make her feel unsafe in the relationship. I broke down and responded. Nothing too long. I said, hey, don't go talking to a lawyer about my situation without me there. I told her that her earlier decision to end the relationship and then do takesies backsies resulted in a loss of trust in her. I told her I was not willing to continue the back and forth messages because it wasn't working, and suggested 2 ways forward. 1. Family therapy. 2. Give up on resolution and go to minimum contact. 1 brunch a year for a catch-up. No family dinners or holiday invites. I said she could pick either or none, but I wasn't willing to keep doing what we've been doing. I also responded to her rant about boundaries. I have boundaries regardless of whether or not she likes them, and she can ask questions about them to understand if she doesn't agree, but pushing them results in me reducing or taking away her access to me. She responded on the 23rd, with perfect timing to blow up the family right before Christmas. She wrote a freaking novel, responding to a dozen of my earlier messages plus my most recent one, sentence by sentence. She would copy and paste a sentence of one of my messages, then respond to it, over and over. I haven't seen anything like it before, and I don't know what she hoped to actually accomplish. Most of her responses were, "I don't know how I have hurt you, I don't know what you're talking about," or "I don't understand." But a lot of these things were explained at other points in the same message, or we had talked about them earlier, so what the hell? Receiving that message was a firm turning point for me. I've had several points in the last year when I thought this would be the end, and had started to accept that there was no real relationship for us. A key one was the unanimous response to my previous post, so thank you Reddit for affirming my experience and supporting. I took a couple days and responded yesterday so that she wouldn't be able to blow up Christmas Day when the rest of my family would be with her. I was of course not at her Christmas. I told her I'm giving up, that she doesn't understand what boundaries are or how they function in healthy, respectful relationships. I told her that it's not worth it for me to keep explaining my pain just for her to act like I'm keeping her in the dark. I wrote a paragraph about the types of ways she has hurt me. I thought y'all might like the final paragraph, in which I am absolutely being unkind, but I don't regret this one. The paragraph: "It feels like I have a gaping hole in my life where a caring mother is supposed to be, and instead it's just you. There are people in my life who are far more deserving of that space, and I'm no longer willing to reserve it for someone who hasn't earned it and isn't willing to set aside their ego for the sake of their relationship with their child."